The verse today, there's two verses, one without a purport and one with a smaller purport. So the Canto 7, Chapter 11, and the first verse without the purport is 15, and the second verse with the little tiny purport is 16. So I'll read the text 15, and then we'll chant text 16, because that's on the board. So, Vyasyastu vartaviti shan nityam brahma kulang nuvaha shudrasya dvija shushrusya ritisha swamino bhavet. Translation. The mercantile community should always follow the directions of the brahmanas and engage in such occupational duties as agriculture, trade, and protection of cows. For the Sudras, the only duty is to accept a master from a higher social order and engage in his service. Text 16, first word by word and translation. Varta, the occupational means of livelihood for the Vaishya, agriculture, cow protection, and trade. Vichitra, various types. Shalina, livelihood achieved without effort. Yayavara, going to the field to beg for some paddy. Shila, picking up the grains left in the field by the proprietor. Unchanam, picking up the grains that have fallen from bags in shops. Vipravriti, the means of livelihood for the brahmanas. Chaturda, 4 different kinds. Iyam, this. Shrayashi, better. Cha, also. Uttara, the latter compared to the former. Varta vichitra shalina, Varta vichitra shalina, Varta vichitra shalina, Yaya vara shilon chanam, Yaya vara shilon chanam, Yayavara Shilonchanam Vipravritis Chaturdayam Vipravritis Chaturdayam Vipravritis Chaturdayam Shreyashi Chotaradhara Shreyashi Chatarotara Shreyashi Chatarotara Vata Vichitra Shalina Yayo Varashilanchanam Vipravritis Chaturdayam Shreyashi Chatarotara. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. As an alternative, a Brahmana may also take to the Vaishya's occupational duty of agriculture, cow protection, or trade. He may depend on that which he has received without begging. He may beg in the paddy field every day. He may collect paddy left in a field by its proprietor, or he may collect food grains left here and there in the shop of grain dealers. These are the four means of livelihood that may also be adopted by Brahmanas. Among these four, each of them in succession is better than the one preceding it. Purport. A Brahmana is sometimes offered land and cows in charity, and thus for his livelihood he may act in the same way as a Vaishya by cultivating land, giving protection to cows, and trading off his surpluses. A better process, however, is to pick up grains from a field or from a dealer's shop without begging. So can repeat. As an alternative, a Brahmana may also take to the Vaishya's occupational duty of agriculture, cow protection, or trade. He may depend on that which he has received without begging. He may beg in the paddy field every day. He may collect paddy left in a field by its proprietor, or he may collect food grains left here and there in the shops of grain dealers. These are four means of livelihood that may also be adopted by Brahmanas. Among these four, each of them in succession is better than the one preceding it. Om Gyantimirandasya Janana Sakalaya Chakshun Militam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachadi Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayivyacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I'm going to begin with a confession. When I read these verses, when I was received, I was just like completely bewildered what to say about any of this, because I have no connection with what's being spoken. I have to speak honestly. And the purport, which is very short, is speaking about alternative occupation for the Brahmana, who we've already read somewhat of what the Brahmana should be doing. And now suddenly we're shifting gears, and he's being allowed to act in the way of a Vaishya. But there seems to be some kind of caveat. Well, sometimes a Brahmana is given some land and some cows in charity. So in that case, he can act as a Vaishya. I mean, it seems like he can act as a Vaishya if he's giving cows and land in a charity. Not that he goes out and by his endeavor, buys some land or acquires some cows. At least that's what it seems to say here. And then he can cultivate the land, he can protect the cows, and he can trade off his surpluses. So it looks like he's going to be working pretty hard, because anybody who's had anything to do with cows knows that it's not an easy thing taking care of cows. I don't have my hands-on personal experience, but when I stay in New Vrindavan, where my base is, I visit the cows almost daily, and I observe how the cowherd and the cowherdess, there's a couple, cowherd man and wife, who take care of those cows, and it's no small task. It's like you're on call at any moment. Something happens in the middle of the night, somebody calls you, and the cow's fallen down the hill and can't get up, and it's dark and it's muddy, and you have to go out there and figure out how to get that cow up. You know, and in New Vrindavan, we have these giant cows. They're Swiss, called brown Swiss. And when their babies are born, their babies are so huge. One was born 2 days ago, so they're posting the picture. There's this baby cow. But I know that that baby cow is gigantic. Like you see here, a baby cow, you can pick it up and cuddle it. You know, you can't, these cows are huge. So it takes a lot of strength and endeavor to, you know, take care of these creatures. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get forever the milk coming from the cow. At a certain point, cow says, that's it, turns off the faucet, and no more milk. And you still have a cow to care for, you know. So then that means there has to be some income. If you're in a place where half the year is covered with snow and ice, and you know, it's not really a very productive type of situation as far as agriculture goes. So in the West, that is the kind of situation that's being faced. So then when you hear about a Brahmana, at least for me, I mean, you know, he gets his cow and he cultivates his land and he protects the cow, he trades off the surplus. That's going to work maybe during the productive time of the year, which is kind of short in the West. So what's, you know, poor guy going to do the rest of the year? So I was looking, you know, there is huge, people have compiled books of, Prabhupada said, about Varnashram, because that's what this chapter is about. And I was kind of trying to see if I could get some enlightenment, because the lights weren't going off in my brain, how to, you know, look at this. But I found a conversation that was during an initiation ceremony in 1969 in New Vrindavan. So there's cows, there's land, there's the West, you know. So I thought I would share that. And then there was another one, so that was in 69. And then in 74, which is like about maybe, what is it? My math isn't so good, but you know, it's 40 some odd years later. So 40 some odd years ago, here in Vrindavan, Prabhupada also gave some kind of hints, or at least he gave some outline. So then I was thinking how Prabhupada said, I've given you the structure. So just like, they're building, when you're building some kind of building, whatever it's meant for, the first thing is you get to lay the foundation, and then you put up the walls, you make the structure. And then you slowly fill in, you add the windows, whatnot, the doors. So he said, I've given you the structure. Now it's up to you to complete it. So I think in the same way, that's how we have to look at this Varnashram situation. It's been said, and there is some, at least there is 2 people that said they heard Prabhupada say it, that this is the second half of my mission. Upon his departing days, and this is the second half of my mission, and leaving that to us to fulfill somehow or other. So some devotees become very agitated that, why haven't we done anything? 50 years down the line, we haven't done anything. On the other hand, the foundation, the structure is still being built up. And it seems to me, since we haven't really come to any conclusive agreement on how this is supposed to look, it's probably better we don't start doing anything too definitive until we know what it is we want to do and how to do it. Otherwise, you can have some type of unstable situation, And at the same time, it seems to me that in little pockets, there are projects going on that are related to Varnashram. It means, taking it in a simple form, that persons are acting according to their particular ability and qualities, that according to their inclination and their ability to fulfill that inclination. There's groups of people here and there that are following. And persons who are strongly Brahminically inclined, they're living that lifestyle. They're doing it quietly. They're not banging a drum. Hey, look at me, Brahmana here. They're just doing it. So it's happening. And there's people, just like the Sharanagati. It's not it's kind of a vast place, but a relatively small group of devotees are there. And they're living this lifestyle as they can, according to means, in a simple way, New Vrindavan was the first farm community, and so there is some agriculture, there's the cow protection going on, but is it really going on in a way that is self-sufficient, which is part of the whole equation? And I would have to say not really, because we are largely dependent upon the donations that come from the people of Indian origin, because at least they'll give. They come to the barn, they look at the cows, they demand a puja, and they give some money, and that money goes to supporting the cows. But that still doesn't seem to me to fully address the concept of a Varnashram system, that would allow the participants to actually be living within their means and by their livelihood. And there's been a lot of discussion going on, throughout the years, trying to give some definitions. But again, it seems principles are there, details are left to be worked out, Some people are bringing up concepts which I find a little shocking, to be honest, like early marriage. Early marriage means like really early, young girls. I don't really think that's what we should be focusing on. They tried that, for the record, that was tried in New Vrindavan. 12-year-old girls, 11-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, married to people more than twice their age. I don't think I need to tell you how that worked out, but it was pretty bad. And, you know, to this day, 40 years down the line, there are scarred hearts. You know, then there's the concept of, you start talking about varnashram, and immediately the role of the women is like suddenly the big discussion. What should women be doing? Like that's going to define varnashram. And so the women, according to some of the proponents, should get married early and have children early, and just, you know, take care of your kids and take care of your house, which is very nice, and I'm not against that part of it at all. And if they have to go outside, because nowadays, you know, let's face it, everybody has to work. Even the ladies have to get out there and get some kind of, you know, job just to survive, at least in the West, you know. But I'm hearing it's the same thing here. But some people are saying, well, that's not good. But if the ladies have to go out, they can, and I'm giving you a quote from a book, which I won't name the book, but they can go out in the fields and work, or they can stay home and weave baskets, quote unquote. So there's just a kind of wide disconnect, it seems, between what could be a working system of varnashram in our current era, and then, you know, backpedal a few years, and maybe that, you know, or a few decades actually, and there might have even been a different scenario, which means even what we figure out now may not apply in a few decades coming down the line ahead, you know. So it seems to me there's some room for adjustment as long as we can get some idea what may be the principles or what the framework might be. So in this conversation, or it was part of a lecture, and one other thing, that in a purport from 2.4.18 from the Bhagavatam, so this is just part of the purport. This is a verse where they talk about the Pulindas and all the different type of persons. The verse in the purport says, the system of caste, or varnashram dharma, is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to establish the institutional function in the present context of social, political, and economic revolution. Without any reference to the particular custom of a country, no one can be accepted, without any reference to the particular custom of a country, one means anyone can be accepted to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. But no one should consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste. So this purport was written at least 40 plus years ago. And he's mentioning it's not possible now. Even the ones who follow it or purport, they say they follow, they can't do it. So then why would he say that, well, 50% of my work is left undone? You know, on one hand, there's many quotes that we don't follow this system, and that will even be mentioned here somewhat. But at the same time, I find some reconciliation in the apparent contradictions. So this was a Brahminical initiation. And Prabhupada starts talking about the Garbhodana ceremony, where a man goes to beget his wife, to beget a child. The other day, it was Bhakti Rasa Sagar Maharaj, she was speaking on this topic. And I found it interesting that what he said was correct if you just take it straight from the book, line by line, and you don't think too much about it. It's correct that you have a particular ceremony that you go through. Prabhupada said, it's not a hide-and-seek behavior. Everyone knows that this man is going to beget a child, this man and this woman, they're going to beget a child. And the reason everybody knows is because they'll go and they'll ask for the blessings. You know, we are going to try to conceive a child, so please give us your blessings. And they follow some, you know, different procedures. Like in ISKCON, we have the famous 50 rounds, but there's other things that can go on. And then Prabhupada says, you know, but if that Garbhodhan is not performed according to scriptural direction, then immediately the person is Sudra. So in this age, Prabhupada points out, nobody's observing this Garbhodhan ceremony, so it is to be understood that everyone is born Sudra. And we know that, we've read. Everyone in this age is a Shudra. So then he points out that the Vedic system can't be applied because there aren't any Brahmanas. Everybody's born a Sudra by this, you know, by default. And there is some hope given to us, however, that the Pancharitrika system gives a person a chance if they have the symptoms. So then what are the symptoms? And Prabhupada gave the example of this little boy. The boy had the symptoms to become a Brahmana, to become a Vaishnava. So this, he mentions this Jabala Upanishad, Satyam Jabala. So this Satyam, that small boy, he went to Gautama Muni, and he asked him, my dear sir, will you please initiate me? And he was so nice, you know, young child, and he was polite, and he said, yes, oh yes, but what is your father's name? I don't know. Okay, well, you go ask your mother, which would be maybe a reasonable thing back in the day. Nowadays, who knows? But the boy went, and he asked, you know, mother, who's my father? And the poor lady, she was actually a chaste person, but, you know, she had had some dealings just for survival. So she had to tell her boy, honestly, I do not know who is your father. So the boy goes back and he goes, all right, who is your father? His mother says she doesn't know. She doesn't know who my father is. Immediately, Gautama said, you are Brahman. Come on, I'll initiate you. Because he was truthful. So that is the symptom of the Brahmana, the Satya Shama. He was so truthful. So Prabhupada was saying, anyone else, everybody would try to hide. You know, you don't know who your father is, you know. Of course, that was back in another era. Nowadays, it's a sad thing. People don't know who is their father. And there's so many reasons for it. One reason may be, well, in our temple in Columbus, Ohio, one young man came, really nice, and he showed such an attraction for Krishna consciousness. It was like almost an immediate thing. And so, you know, start talking after a while about his childhood. And he said he was brought up by his mother. And I said, well, what was your father? Did he have any part? And he goes, well, no. My mother had no idea who my father was. Because unfortunately what happened is she was drinking in some bar. And some guy, she didn't even know who the guy was. And, you know, they got together. And then she found out she was pregnant. But she never saw the guy again. She didn't even know his name. You know, such a sad condition. And this is not terribly unusual nowadays, unfortunately. But to make it even more interesting nowadays, you can bypass that whole procedure, go to the doctor, and there's 2 or 3 different methods where, you know, by some surgical procedure, you can get pregnant. Somewhere there was a man who donated some sperm. It's kept in a thing called a sperm bank. And some lady, they may want a child, or even sometimes a couple wants a child, and they cannot conceive, so they can go to this sperm bank and, you know, arrange for some pregnancy. So you don't know. In some cases, you can find out, you know, they match some details, but you don't know. You don't know the person. And the person is not going to know that they have a child. Well, they can expect they may have a child, but they're not going to know the child. They won't know who is the mother. So, you know, this is nowadays what to speak of down the line, how it's going to become even more degraded. So, whatever the situation is, the basic principle is this truthfulness. And Prabhupada said that this system is not new. We have to accept by the system. If one is inclined, so now he's lecturing to this person who's going to take the Brahmin initiation. If one is inclined to go to Krishna, he's chanting, he's following the principles, then according to Narada's version, Yashyahiya lakshanam varnabhivyanakchakam tainaiva vinirjishet. So Bhagavatam 7, same chapter, 11th chapter, but down the line, 35th verse. So this Lakshman is truthful. One should take a person according to the classification. And Prabhupada said, if he's a liar, he is Panchama, less than a Sudra, so then that person is not Brahman material. But then Prabhupada said, but people, they've misused the whole thing. Now I'm born of Brahmana, because they're going on the seminal discharge caste system. When Prabhupada is speaking of caste system, he is not speaking on this birthright. He is speaking on qualification, symptom. So he said people misunderstood Hindu culture, Vedic culture, that there are forced caste system. But he says no. It's varna bhivyanak jakam, by the symptom, by the quality, by the qualification. It's not by birth. So then he continues, so one of the items of Krishna consciousness mission is to establish real varnashram by qualification. So first he's saying it's not possible varnashram in this age, but that is referred, then by this statement we can understand referenced by birth. But still, he wants to establish varnashram by qualification. And then he says, but we have to pick up brahmanas from everywhere, throughout the whole world. Not that we have to pick up brahmanas in India. So he said, there's brahmanas all over the world. We have to pick them up, just see. None of these boys are born, so these are the ones who are getting their Brahmin initiation in New Vrindavan. None of these boys are born in India, are from a Brahmana family, but they have got the symptom. They have either acquired willingly or by some way. So we have to pick them up. Anyone who is truthful, who's controlling the senses, no illicit sex life, that is controlling the senses. And there's so many other things. That's the most important thing. Shamo, Dhamma, Tatiksha, they are tolerant. And so these American boys, they have to take, boys and girls, they have to take up another culture, which they're not accustomed to from birth. And he says, Prabhupada says, so this is tolerance. I'm asking these Americans, don't smoke, don't take intoxication. They're accustomed to these habits from childhood, but now they are doing this. They're giving up these habits. This is tolerance. So these are Brahminical qualifications, tolerance, truthful. So in this age, the chance is given by the Pancharatrika system. Doesn't matter how one's born. Nobody is responsible for their birth, but everyone is responsible for his work. So then he points out, if you work like the Brahmin, like a Vaishya, and chant Hare Krishna, then and chant Gayatri mantra, your life will be sublime. So don't neglect it. And this was what he's telling. I heard one lecture, I think it was in New York City, and somewhere in this lecture he commented, if you chant the Gayatri mantra perfectly even once, you'll be liberated, So he's saying here, chant this Gayatri mantra Chant Hare Krishna, your life will be sublime. Don't neglect it. You are being initiated according to the order of our predecessors. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prativiti Achayatra Nagarari Grama. We should have to preach this Krishna consciousness movement in every village, in every town on this planet. Therefore, we have come to your country. And of course, at a certain point, we, meaning these Western disciples, came to your country, those of you who are from India. In the early 70s, we came here. There was no ISKCON. That was our mission in Western bodies, to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in India. So then, in a conversation about Varnashram and its application in 1974 here in Vrindavan, won't have time to kind of go through all of this. So he's talking, Srila Prabhupada, first of all, Varna. And then when the Varna is perfect, then give ashram, Varnashram, he said. So that is later on. And he was asked, well, should they be taught a skill? And Prabhupada replied, yes, but first of all, the whole society must be divided into 4 Varnas. Otherwise, there will be chaotic condition. And that's what the position is now. So in 74, he's talking about the chaos. It's obviously, you know, quite increased now. And then we just look in the news and you just kind of cracks your brain. You can't even believe some of the stuff that's going on. You know, not even the most perverted, you would think, not even the most perverted person could think to do some of the stuff that is being done. But as Prabhupada would say, these things are going on. So he said, if you organize this society into Varnas, there won't be any question of unemployment. And then he was asked, well, from the very beginning, then we should teach Bhagavad-Gita. And Prabhupada said, yes, but our position is that we're above Varnashrama. So now he's talking about us, members of ISKCON. For management, for management and for ideal society, we're introducing that. But so far as we're concerned, Krishna conscious men and women, we are above Varnashram. But to show the people that we're not escaping, we can take part in any order of life. That's our position. We can do anything. And Prabhupada said, just like if I brush somebody's shoes, does that mean I'm a shoe keeper? My position is the same, but to show how to do it, just like a servant is doing. The master is, oh, you cannot do it? Here, I'll show you. So then Prabhupada would sometimes show us, here, how to mop a floor. He'd get a bucket of water, he'd get some cloth, and he'd throw the water on the floor, and he'd wipe with the cloth. So Prabhupada said, does that mean I'm a mopper? No, he's teacher, he's showing. So we don't belong to any Varna and ashram, but we have to show those rascals how to do. And Prabhupada did that in so many wonderful ways. I mean, it's just, the verse is saying what a Brahmin can do and what a Brahmin shouldn't do indirectly. It's saying that. So here's Srila Prabhupada, above Brahmin, you know, perfectly liberated soul, surrendered to Krishna. And yet he came to the most degraded part of America, New York City, Lower East Side. And he was personally shopping, preparing the boga, offering it, and then presenting it to these really uncultured, unkept young men and women that would come in. They would come and sit down. He would put plates out. He would serve them. And they were just initially so uncultured that after eating, they wouldn't wash their hands. They'd just get up and leave. Thank you very much, and go, leaving the dirty plates for who? For Srila Prabhupada to pick up and wash. Does that mean that he has lost his caste? No, because he is. One time somebody asked, are you the spiritual master of the entire universe, of the world? And he paused, he looked down, and he said, no, I am the servant of the whole world. But in his servitorship, it is not in the role of the Sudra who should accept to have a master of a higher caste. That's explained in the Sudra. He must take a master from the higher class. Prabhupada is the supreme servant because his servitorship is aimed at pleasing Krishna. So whatever he does is simply to show the world what is to be done and what is not to be done. So then he was asked, what about the brahmanas? You know, how would we engage the brahmanas? And he said, oh, they'll be teachers. They'll all be teachers. That would be the duty of the brahmanas. And then somebody was asking him, what about killing? And Prabhupada said, yes, even killing. Dronacharya was a brahmana, but as a teacher, he was teaching how to kill. Not that he was, you know, that as a teacher, he went out, that was his duty, so you have to know. And then one devotee was asking, there was Yadubar, well, how would we kill? By bow and arrow or by guns? So Prabhupada said, well, just because they used bow and arrows at that time doesn't mean we have to use bow and arrows if there is something better available, you know. So you said, just because the Kshatriyas were killing by bows and arrows formerly, you have to continue. You can, if you can kill easily by a gun, take a gun. Just like formerly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked on the street. There was no airplane. Does that mean I have to follow that? I must take the jet engine if it's available. And if somebody criticizes, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was walking, I have to take that ideal? He says, this is rascaldom. When you have to work with the easiest and greatest facility. That's all. So now I have the facility of talking into a microphone. Here there's 4 or 5 men, you know, there's little darshan. But by talking into the microphone and recording, 400 or 500 they can hear. You know, so. So what he said that we don't, then continuing this, somebody asked, should we perpetuate this technical skill? And Prabhupada said no, but if somebody's interested to do it, we can take it and make the best use of it, you know. And then he was asked, well, should there always be programs in the temple for their welfare? Yes. He was talking to sannyasis, that was Vishnu John Swami who asked, you should always remain sannyasi within, but outwardly, for others' convenience, you can do anything. Similarly, we are not varnashram, we are above, but to give others facility to come to the stage of Krishna consciousness, this program must be done. And then he was asked by Hridayananda, well, in colleges in the West, there's a fee, you have to pay to be taught. And Prabhupada said, no, we're not going to charge any fee. There's no question of money, because the brahmanas, they'll teach for free. They require money because they have to give a fat salary to the rascals, but we haven't got to do that. We have to feed them, but we'll produce our own grain. So where is the question of taking money? Therefore, it's required somebody must produce fruit. And there's no... The Vaishya students, they'll produce the food. So he's kind of giving an outline here, which may or may not be immediately applicable, but an outline is there, how we can engage. Then he was asked by Satsuru, well, what about the children in our Gurukul? And the children in the Gurukul in those days, some of them were 3.5 years old. So after the Gurukul, should they go to the Varnashram college? Prabhupada said yes. So then he was asked, well, is there a minimum age for beginning such a college? So, you know, we're thinking college, you'll be like 18, 19, 20 years old. Prabhupada said, yes, from 5 to 10 years Gurukula, and after 10 years, they should go to the Varnashram college. In other words, learn a skill, learn to become useful. So, anyway, these were some of the comments that were made by Prabhupada between New Vrindavan and New Vrindavan. Another comment was, in our temples we have so many devotees, right away Prabhupada said, yes, and they should be engaged. And then he was, you mean trained? Prabhupada said, yes. And those who are not able to preach or to do other things, then they go to the plow department, agriculture. Those who are less educated and not expert in preaching, they must be acting as Kshatriya or Vaishya or Sudra. Not that he is Sudra. And he corrects, not that he is Sudra, meaning the devotees, but according to your capability and your ability to perform some activity. So even if you have to act like a Sudra, as a devotee, Prabhupada said, not that he is Sudra. Always remember that. But he has to act to fill up the gap. So Prabhupada had a bigger vision in terms of fulfilling the second half of his mission, but it still seems compatible. It was based on education, educating people how to behave so that there won't be chaos in society. He was explaining that there is chaos because people don't know what to do, and neither do they know how to do it, and everybody wants to be the king. He goes, just sit at the table in a chair and talking. You know, what is this? You know? So, he points that if they're not properly trained up, so trained up means you become a few verses ago, they were giving all the, I think about 30 qualities, and the speaker was saying these qualities are nothing to do with God. These are just qualities to make you a human being. And Prabhupada often said that you know, just having these good qualities, it just means you become above the animal level. But then you have to become a devotee. So if you don't come above this human, it means you remain in the animal, even though Prabhupada would say two-legged cat and dog. So trying to train people up to rise above the animal level and to mitigate the chaos and confusion in society. It has to start at home, within our own society. So it seems to me, and after reading these different things, that probably the best is to observe ourselves and see what we can do to, within our own lives, to contribute to the defeat of chaos and confusion. And by acting as brahmanas, which means truthful and tolerant, compassionate, qualities of a brahmana, Prabhupada put in, I can't remember the actual verse, but the purport, he says, create a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. So that is our mission, and we have to ourselves get ourselves properly situated in order to do this. So I cannot say a lot about this topic because I find it really, it's a very intriguing but slightly bewildering topic if you look around first at our own ISKCON society and then the greater society. So therefore I say probably best we focus on our own society. Prabhupada has that famous letter where he said we've been expanding and expanding, now it's time to stop and boil the milk to increase persons' knowledge, understanding, and spiritual realizations so that they become closer to Krishna, so they become spiritually strong, so that we are able to factually guide others. Because if ourselves are weak, that will immediately be noticed and will have no effectiveness, you know, up to a certain level, and then, you know, we can't transcend. So. Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.